Hey guys, welcome to this lecture on medical terminology. Alright, why should we care about medical terminology? Who cares about this? I'm just going to use whatever words I want. Well, you should care. You need to care because you need this to be able to communicate with other healthcare professionals like nurses and doctors. It'll help you communicate with your patients. Your patients might have conditions that they know about, and they can start talking to you about them. It's also going to help you understand patient charts and other medical literature. Patient charts. When on earth are we going to see patient charts? Well, sometimes we'll go to places like nursing homes, and it may be that the nurse who is with the patient doesn't really know the patient very well. And you may just be given a patient chart, and you're left to figure out what you need to know. So that's part of why we need to understand medical terminology. So what are the parts, or what are the components of words? So when we talk about medical terminology, we talk about the root. The root of the word is the fundamental part of the word that is the fundamental or the part of the word that's described. The prefix comes before the root and the suffix comes after the root. Okay. Let's take a look at this. So like I said, the word root is the main part or the foundation of a word. All words have at least one word root. And a word root can be used alone or combined with other elements to form a complete word. For example, in this word, the root is speak. We add a suffix to it, and that makes the word speaker. Speak can stand by itself. It has a meaning. When you add a suffix to it, it changes the meaning, but it's very certainly related to the original word. So in the case of medical terminology, the word root is usually referring to a body part, like heart equals cardio or cardia, depending on what the suffix is, but card refers to heart. Most are derived from Latin or Greek. I know you can't see that, but that's what it says, Latin or Greek. Here's some examples. Dent, for example, means tooth. Dermat means skin. Derm or dermat means skin. Think of a dermatologist. What does a dermatologist do? Cardi means heart. Gaster means stomach. Pancreat means pancreas. Bio means life. So if any of you guys have ever taken a biology, and you don't actually put that in there, of course. It's a study. Logi is a suffix. It happens to mean study of. We'll talk about that in a second. And bio is life. So biology is the study of life. All right, so let's talk a little bit about combining forms. How do we actually put these things together? So first off, the correct pronunciation of medical words is important. Just because I have a root word and a prefix or a suffix doesn't necessarily mean that I'm saying it right. Sometimes we have to add some letters. So in order to make the pronunciation of word roots easier, sometimes it's necessary to insert a vowel after the root. The combination of a word root and a vowel is known as a combining form. So this sounds complicated, but it's really not. So remember, cardi is heart. Sometimes we have to add an O here or an A here. And that's all it is. If I add an A here, then it's a combining form. So cardia would be a combining form. So let's take a look at some. Combining forms consists of a combining vowel. The combining vowel is usually an O, but others can be used. So remember, gaster plus stomach, if you add an O to it, it's pronounced gastro. That's a lot easier to say than gaster. Gastro makes more sense. This right here is a combining form. Again, you can see gaster is the word root, O is the combining vowel, and that makes gastro. So let's talk about combining roots. When a word has more than one root, a combining vowel is used to link the root to each other, the two different roots or three different roots to each other. For example, osteoarthritis. Oste is bone, arthur is joint, and itis happens to mean inflammation. It's hard for us to say osteoarthritis. To make it flow better, we add this little O right here, osteoarthritis. So you've got a word root here because that's bone, remember, it's a body part. Arthur here is a word root as well because it means joint. And then this right here is your little combining vowel. This happens to be a suffix. We haven't talked about those yet, but we're going to shortly. So this is basically a word building system. Think of it like playing with Legos. You're taking little blocks, building blocks, and you're putting them together, and then they have meaning. We're going to play with this a little bit in class to help it make a little bit more sense. But that's basically what we're doing, is we're taking smaller words or smaller parts of words, and we're putting them together to make complete. So here are some common root words, and I'm not going to take the time to read through all of them. You do need to know these. You need to memorize them. So however you're going to do that, if you're going to make note cards, then make some note cards for these. But you need to know this. You'll be tested over this. With your first test, you need to make sure to understand this and to know these. So know all these word roots. Remember, these are roots. Now I'm going to talk about suffixes. So suffix means it comes at the end of a word. Suffix, like it says here, is added to the end of the word root or combining form to modify its meaning. By adding a suffix to the end of a word with a root, we can create either a noun or an adjective that has a different meaning. We can also have combining vowels with suffix. So a combining vowel is used between a word root and a suffix that begins with a consonant, but not a vowel. This makes pronunciation easier. So let's take a look at something that would require a combining vowel. So the word root here is sclare, which happens to mean hardening. Sclare. Our suffix is going to be derm or derma, which is skin. Scleroderma is tough to say. Remember, we're going to put a combining vowel in here, which again is usually an O, because this starts with a consonant. Hopefully you remember your vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Right? That's a vowel. A consonant is anything other than A, E, I, O, or U. So what are we going to do? We're going to add a combining vowel right here. Scleroderma is hardening of the skin. So let's take a look at this. We're going to take a look at the suffix. We're going to take this word apart. Your word roots here. Luke means white. Sight means cell. So you can actually see we've got Luke and sight. What is this guy? That's a combining vowel. All right. We've got another one right here. O. Penia. Penia means a decrease. So Luke O, sight O, penia. We've actually got two combining vowels. All right, so what are some common suffixes? Again, these are going to be things you need to learn. Put these on note cards or whatever it is that you're going to do to remember these. You have got to learn these, memorize them, and know how to use them. So centesis is puncturing, size is cut, sight means cell, emia means blood or em, anytime you see the em or eme. Itis is inflammation. Megaly, I always think mega is big, and that does, it means it's enlarged. Ology is the study of, like remember we talked about biology. And it may not have this O in front of it. Osis is the condition of. Paresis is weakness. Plesia is paralysis. Phobia is fear. Scope is instrument for examination. So something like an otoscope. Oto is ear, and scope is an instrument for examination. So it's something to examine the ear. All right, and now the last topic here is prefixes. Well, suffixes go at the end of words. Prefixes, if you know what pre means it comes before. A prefix is a syllable or syllables placed before a word or word root that alter its meaning to create a new word. Some prefixes, hyper, which means too much. Pre, which means before. See? Before. Post means after. Homo means the same. Hypo means under. And here's an example. Hypoinsulinemia. So remember, hypo is low. Insulin, that happens to be something that your pancreas makes that drops your blood sugar. Em is the blood, or in the blood. Here's your prefix. There's your word root. And this is a suffix. Hypo again means low. Insulin is insulin. And emia is the blood. Notice here there isn't a combining vowel because the prefix ends with a vowel. See, it ends with the prefix here. Get all confused. The prefix here ends with a vowel, and the suffix here begins with a vowel. So we don't need any extra combining vowels to help us out. This is pretty easy to pronounce, believe it or not. Hypoinsulinemia. Hypoinsulinemia. Easy to pronounce without any extra vowels. And here's your list of common prefixes. So by is to, Brady is slow, and tacky is fast. So those I would put closer together because they're opposites. Super and supra both mean above. Sub is under. Post and pre are after and before. Poly is many. Peri is surrounding or around. Pathy or path is disease. Or patho, like pathology. Whoops. Pathology. Ology, oops, that's an L, not a T. Pathology is the study of disease. So again, need to know these. Put these on your note cards and memorize them. However you're going to memorize things, you need to memorize these. So let's review. A combining vowel is used to link one root to another root, is before a suffix that begins with a consonant. It can also be used after a prefix that ends with a consonant. However, a combining vowel is not used before a suffix that begins with the vowel. All right, that's it for this lecture. If you have any questions, be sure to bring them into class and come in prepared to practice this.